I'm really excited about this one specifically, Brent. I wanted you to take some time to introduce yourself from your perspective. From what I've seen and worked with from your side is you do work on both sides of the print and the graphics into the business, and we've been working with you for a little bit of time. But at the same time, you've been really focused on a couple different aspects, and this is a real, more of a customer conversation than a demonstration of any sort. So I'm going to keep things light when it comes down to screen sharing or jumping into a bunch of nuance, and really focus on kind of the experience from your side. And if for any of you in the attendees there that would like to ask a question, you can do so doing the chat version. There's a chat button at the bottom once you hover around in Zoom. There's also in the more section a Q&A area that you can post a question and we can answer directly through that means as well. So, Brent, tell us a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more about your background coming into the Allegra scene or the AFB scene in general.
Sure. I'm if you haven't met me before, I'm Brent Lawrence. I own the Allegra with Image360 in Pickering, Canada, Ontario, Canada, which is a suburb of Toronto area, so part of the Greater Toronto area. I'm a second generation owner. My dad started a quick copy back in 1984. We have about 30 plus staff, closer to 34. We produce about $5.5 million in sales. 4.5 of that is print and graphics, traditional marketplace with promo and mailing services. And we do about just under $1 million in signage under the Image360 brand. For basically, we produce over 90% of our work in-house, so we have very little order out, but we do about 10%. And the staff, I thought it would be important to sort of break down some of the staff levels that we have here because they're the ones that are using PlanProphet. We only have one designer and a pre-press manager and one signage pre-press operator. Besides that, I have 5 CSRs/estimators and about 4 different salespeople. That's about it for who I am. I think that covers most of the basis of what you wanted to hear.
Yeah, and I appreciate that background too, because kind of learning that this is a second generation example for you. Some people are coming out of a completely different industry and learning this from the get-go. You kind of get to learn this from the beginning, at least on the quick print side, from your father, and then took over the business and have expanded upon that sense. I think that's a very interesting story, probably something worth digging into further as well as we get into this. Just what did you learn? What are some things that maybe people wouldn't know unless they've been a part of it for long enough? Real quick before we go into that, for those who don't know me, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer, Christian Dickson, for PlanProphet. While recently joined in December of last year, my focus is helping with the partners and the channels and to make the most of the customer communications as well. So anything that we hear from our customers about desires or hopes or challenges, we're framing that as part of our roadmap for product, but also how do we build customer communities? How do we, maybe it's multiple different Allegras or AFB in general that we have a session of a community for us to talk and learn and work together from. So as we kind of dig into this, feel free to jump in and ask the type of questions that come up. Brent, same goes to you. If you have a question that has been, plaguing you or just pops up into your head, feel free to jump in. And I'm happy to share anything else I can in detail about who PlanProphet is and what we do. Most of you probably already know who we are and what we do. But as we talk about the system of PlanProphet from a CRM standpoint, an automation suite for customer communications, connecting to your MIS or other systems to track orders and jobs, quotes, invoices, etc. We'll be digging into that a little bit more here with Brent, more on how his team is using it, how it rolls up to him as the leader and the owner and the person who's kind of overseeing, and then anything else that might come into mind as we think about what this tool can do for him, his team, and for anyone else.
One thing I sort of left out that I thought would be some critical information is that the MIS system I was using was Printsmith, and I was also using Corebridge for my signage side of the business. And as we get into this, I have since then eliminated Core Bridge and have transitioned everything over to Printsmith at this time. So I think that's sort of important to know. My experience are based on what Printsmith does, and I know you can connect to Printsmith and some other MIS systems. So you asked me a question about something in printers plan or whatever. I
Printers
can't
plan.
answer. Yeah.
And that's fair. I think it's a good point because, different technologies have different scopes of how we connect, the API itself and what it allows us to see. All of them have the base level stuff, jobs, contact records, objects and fields, data that we need to populate a PDF with that we can then send as a quote or invoice, et cetera, et cetera. We're mapping that data, matching it, kind of creating that duplicate. But Brent, you mentioned your experience of shifting over from kind of two MIS systems and now converging into one with Printsmith. Give me an example of how that kind of shift change took place and how you kind of planned for something like that. And then maybe a little bit of how it mapped to PlanProphet or how that either helped or was even more of a challenge to make that change.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really so when we adopted PlanProphet, you could only connect to one MIS system. So obviously it was print related that we were really trying to do a lot of automation for and things like that. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Core Bridge is something that's coming along down the pipeline for you guys, but you haven't got there quite yet to connect to Core Bridge. And I could be wrong on that. Am I wrong on that?
No, so with the full integration, which is the concept of many to many, a wide net API configuration, and we're still working with them on a V2 and V3 matchups. If you have the API, we can connect with our API, which was launched earlier, right? Actually, during the AFB convention, was the month that we launched our API, which is where then you could connect to an instance of a technology that we've never connected with before, ever. It's new, but in that case, Brent, there is an example where we could have done that, but in your time frame, we didn't have that capability.
Yeah. So my experience was because I was running two MIS systems, all the signage quotes, I was using Core Bridge for signage estimating and production workflow. So for signage, it was never being able to use the full capability of PlanProphet because PlanProphet was attached to Printsmith. So, for example, if we wanted to, we would build the job all in Core Bridge and then recreate it in Printsmith to then have it go functioning out into PlanProphet. And I finally got fed up with that. And I said, this is not going to work long term. It's very clunky. So we rebuilt Printsmith to handle signage and handle 98% of the capabilities that Core Bridge can do. But Core Bridge is better for certain signage projects. So I gave up that to be able to integrate completely into Printsmith and PlanProphet.
It's interesting because you're making a trade-off when it comes down to that. The two different businesses have different needs and have different experiences as well. So kind of mapping that together now being possible to do both. In the case you do want to change in the future to up level or evolve in that way, obviously, please reach out to us so that we can help you with that.
Don't
But
tell me
if you,
signage manager that. I just got convinced to
you're
switch
doing great.
over. So I
Well,
don't want to hear any more about that.
and that's the thing. We've actually heard a lot of people do the same with Printers Plan, where they've been able to create Printers Plan in a way that can handle the signage side. And it's, some things are always better than others in different systems. As you thought about this from PlanProphet at the beginning, and you first started working with us or you started to evaluate it, what was it like, and who did you bring to the table to really understand if this was made sense for you guys as a good fit?
So when it was first introduced to me by someone at AFB, I don't know whether it was Colleen Finn or someone else saying I should really take a look at this because it's a lot of automation stuff. And I've always been a fairly early adapter to technology. Automation has always been key to my thought process on how I can reduce labor. And, when you look at it, we're running a $4.5 million company with one graphic designer, a pre-press manager, and a pre-press operator on signage. So that's a lot of volume especially when we're doing 90% of the work in-house.
Mm-hmm.
So this was combined with some other automation softwares. This certainly has helped us do a lot of increased sales and not increase labor as much. So, sorry, I sidetracked there. So AFB sort of introduced it to us. I thought it was a stupid program. I thought no one in their right mind should be paying for this. There's no way I'm doing it. And I was pretty blunt in my responses. And I did not have any respect for PlanProphet at all.
I'm sure the team at the time was thrilled at that response.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So I was in a performance group with Curtis Hosley, and he really was an early adapter of PlanProphet, and he really bought into it. And I was in a performance group, and I was in his location, and I saw what was going on and how his team was using it. And I go, okay, this is significantly different than what I thought it was. And I started seeing the gears in motion on how I could apply this. I think anyone that doesn't have PlanProphet now should really check themselves, because this is a game changer to how anyone runs their business. I've gone from someone, an extreme skeptic, to I don't think I could run my business without it.
And I want to dig into that because, I don't like, I don't want people to think that I'm going to get blanket endorse this because I'm on the company. I look at this pragmatically from the side of you, Brent. When you're looking and you're trying to pick it apart, that's actually a better example of a great client that once we do work together, we know where their needs lie, we know where their challenges lie and what their concerns are. So that perspective actually helps us as a company. And I want to kind of understand a little bit on your perspective. What were the things that came off, whether it was maybe miscommunication from our side of what we do and how we work, or it was the cost and ROI, or who had to use it and what it was going to do? What were the things that kind of stopped you in your tracks before you kind of saw it in action from another user?
Well, primarily cost was the first go that hit me. I go, and then the cost, and then the false belief that I thought my CSRs and sales process was much better than they really were. And once you figure out that they're not, because we all get busy, when you start looking at PlanProphet does automatic quote follow-ups, it does automatic art approvals, it streamlined our delivery process. So now we know exactly, and the client knows exactly when a job is delivered. It's like an Amazon package delivery system. It's when you introduce that, I said, holy geez, my driver now doesn't carry around packing slips. He carries around an iPad. As soon as he puts in the name, and the client gets an email saying, hey, the package has been delivered, so-and-so signed for it, and it's on your shipping door. The amount of times that we used to have phone calls, when's the package coming? Is it here yet? Is it here yet? And it's like, you'll get the email notification now. And then our customers start getting used to the email notifications, and they don't bug us about that. So it's just easier. The other thing, which you'll hear some of my criticisms too, and I think AFB has fixed a lot of this stuff. The marketing component of it and the introduction to new clients is fantastic, and it's just automatic. You don't have to think about it anymore. I was a little disappointed with AFB when they were signing up, because I believe that it should be like an off-the-shelf thing. I'm an Allegra with an Image360. I'm located in Ontario, Canada. Here's all the marketing components that you need that are designed, ready to go, and it's right here. Versus here's all the marketing programs that you have, and you pick and choose which one you want. And when we got into it, because I'm Canadian and we speak different English and write different English than Americans do, it was all Americanized. So we had to go through and recreate the whole system. I was also stunned that AFB didn't have marketing people involved on the PlanProphet at that time when I jumped on board. I think they've corrected that as well, because some programs are being released now that I see just pop up, And we're going to start implementing new marketing programs to basically replace the constant contact newsletters because it's better data, it's more real, it's just better. The reorder process on PlanProphet is so much nicer too,
Hmm.
compared to PrintSmith.
Well, going into that question, I think talking about how you guys are using PlanProphet outside of if I frame it this way for anyone who doesn't know everything, there's the core, which is the focus on the automations, obviously the tracking of emails and CRM, mapping data to the MIS or ERP that you're using, PrintSmith, Printer's Plan, etc. Those things are kind of out of the box, and marketing communications, of course, follow up on invoices, quotes, proofs, etc. What other modules are you using? Are you using customer portal? Are you using shipping modules? Are you doing that through other systems? How are you kind of framing this out from a day-to-day, from maybe the customer's experience? They have a conversation with you, there's interest expressed all the way to delivered and paid.
Yeah. So I believe that again, I'm not quite sure of all the components we're using at the time. And again, it's a work in process. And when you adopt PlanProphet, you got to take it off in little chunks. If you try to say, I'm not releasing it until everything's set up and done, you've already lost. So we just highlighted certain chunks of technology that we wanted to adopt and programs that we wanted to adopt. The shipping module we use for our internal delivery drivers. I'd love to have it connect better with our couriers, but again, I
Mm.
believe Canada is lagging behind on your thought process on that, and I haven't evaluated it recently, so I could be wrong on that. But it also there's pros and cons to the shipping components on that too. But we're
Mm.
using it mostly for automation in the invoice process as well as the marketing functions.
Amazing. And so that's in this case, the shipping module as you're working through these becomes a very interesting crossover where you're looking at the different shipping providers that you have in Canada. And I'm going to take this note back to the team today, by the way, Brent, so that they understand, hey, have we made any changes here? Our integration with ShipStation is where it's getting that data, which then you can add in others. So I would like to take a look at that with you just to make sure that maybe if there's a solution there to solve today, we can. Um,
Yeah.
talking,
Sorry,
yeah.
one challenge with the shipping is that the
Mm.
rates from some of the discount rate delivery units that we use for shipping, you can if you tie into like our Purelator or our UPS or FedEx, we have pretty good rates, but nothing compared to some of the discount rate deals that we have with like print mail Shipmaster or
Mhm.
a couple other different programs that we have around here. So I don't know
Yeah,
whether we'll be able to connect, but it's sort of cool.
Yeah, I think the possibility of importing your own register of negotiated rates for that, for it to pull from, is what we should be considering for this. And if we haven't hit the Canadian opportunities there specifically yet, that's definitely a room for growth for us, both for
Cool.
you and for the other Canadian users that we have, both in AFB and independent centers. So thank you for that feedback.
Okay.
So you're going through with this, and today, let's say you go through, you have team members that are analyzing on the quote side, the details along the customer's journey and the life cycle. How much of it is spent on a current customer that you've been working with for a long time, maybe back and forth from, or a consistent one that orders every other month or every quarter, versus maybe doing some other things that might be, sales, upselling, maybe considering new prospecting. How's that example or that kind of percentage of been for you so far?
So I need to back up because one thing that I wanted to caution people on is PlanProphet is only as good as the data that you're putting into it. So unfortunately, I'll tell a story about data because all the programs you're talking about has got to be pulled from the data from the MIS system. So if you have wrong contacts in the MIS system, you're sending out emails to the wrong people and PlanProphet on the automated servers. So, and we always thought everyone, our data is really good. Everyone's data is garbage. And there's no proving me different on that. But what's interesting is I had a critical failure in Printsmith data. I lost 8 months of data, gone. The backup was operating right. The backup failed, and we lost 8 months. The only way that we survived that is PlanProphet still had all that data on the sales side from our customers that we lost in Printsmith. So we were able to fairly easily, not perfectly, reabsorb that data into Printsmith and have that data continuation going forward. It's like a bit of a backup, but the challenge comes with PlanProphet is because Printsmith never technically deletes information. PlanProphet takes all the information all the time. And I don't know whether that's something that you can work on because, for example, I had a customer go out of business in 1988 and Printsmith, I deleted the account and it's still showing up there as a contact. And again, your data is PlanProphet is only as good as the data. So it's some great benefits there because without that, we would have lost, just imagine 8 months of data gone of all your jobs, of all your artwork, everything. And PlanProphet was able to pull everything back, or 90% of it.
Yeah, we like to believe that there's no way that could happen to us. And then when it does happen, the fear of setting in of, how am I going to get this back? Can I roll my data back? We've run into some other instances like this in the past from other systems as well. But simply making that copy and updating it live is phenomenal, but having that register backup in the cloud as well, take with you if you're locally hosted or if you are cloud, it continues to go with you. It's beneficial. I agree. And some things that are coming in as we're talking about this, Brent, is something like they asked about real life usage. An anonymous attendee asked if we're able to show this and not just an endorsement. While I can show that, I can't show Brent's account. And I want to make sure that I'm not presenting information that is publicly another live account. I do have a test account, and I'm happy to do so towards the end of this, not to distract away from the conversation with Brent, just to make sure that we're not putting a big screen share for a demo. But if you have questions on this, we will be sending out a short video that talks about what it does and a way for you to connect with us to make sure you can see a one-on-one with our team. And I'll try to pepper in some things later on. I just don't want this to be just a strict demo in this case. And Brent, I don't think, we're wanting to share your live instance with your customers' data and other things on a recorded line, at least at this point in time.
No, I would be okay with one-on-one with anyone that's part of the Alliance Franchise Brands Network, because I feel we're all one big happy family. But I don't trust a full broadcast of everything.
Better safe than sorry. Better safe than sorry. We were the same mind there. Another question that came up, and I'll kind of tie this into a question that we had for you already. Dave Campbell asks, how many team members do you have and how actively, how many are actively utilizing it, the PlanProphet and its functionality, whether it's directly or indirectly, and kind of give us some elaboration of the team's usage of PlanProphet and maybe early to today. Maybe the difference has changed.
No, I jumped in full with both feet on that one. I think I've got 18 users on it that are using it, except for 2 older salespeople that are not as technologically capable as some of the other people. But all the graphic designers know PlanProphet. All the accountant knows it. All the CSRs know it. So I would say active users, I would say at least probably 15. I would think the sales guys use it to look. And if you are in a sales role, so I don't actively. That's not my role in companies to go out and sell. But any salesperson should look at this data and just be blown away by it, and the amount of data that you can get in the reports, and the just some of the things you're not thinking of. It's right in your face. It just boom. A client sale. One of your main clients is down 10%. Boom, it's right there. It shows up in dark red, and you go, "Wow, I got to reach out to them." Any salesperson would be crazy not to be using this if they can.
So you mentioned, I think it was 18 users, give or take, and then your full company is around 36,
32 to 34.
32, 34. So about half the team,
Yeah.
sales, customer success, and who else outside of yourself as the owner manager is using it outside of sales and CSRs?
The accountant does, because
Okay.
when she's doing a collection phone call because someone hasn't paid you in 90 days, she
Hmm.
checks PlanProphet. She sees that the customer actually received the invoice. She sees the customer actually opened up the invoice. She sees that the customer opened up the invoice on this day. And when the customer then obviously is going to tell you the truth all the time and say, "I never received that invoice," and you can say, "You received that invoice on this date at this time, and you opened it at this time." And it's like, "Oh, I'll pay right away." And
Mm.
so the accountant is doing that. The automatic statement flow, so it sends out all your statements combined with all your invoices, as long as you don't go over, is it 35 invoices?
I
So
forget the
when you
number. Is you're
yeah,
talking about active invoices you're chasing throughout the
yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so if a customer has 10 outstanding invoices, it sends to the payer this copy of the
Hmm.
statement on the 1st and the 15th of the month, plus copies of all 10 invoices. And the accountant then can track to make sure that they received those statements and have opened those statements, to prove that, don't you know don't lie to me. You have the invoices, pay the bill. And but there's a limit. So one of our top customers, we could quite easily have active 100 invoices, and it stops at a certain level. I forget, I think it's 30 or 35.
The most
But
recent 30 or 35, and
yeah,
then others outstanding, or the most, actually, I think they can
it won't
reframe
send
it to
any
like,
invoices.
yeah.
It won't send any invoices. It will just send the statement.
Hmm. Hmm. Are you using Customer Portal today?
No.
Okay.
What? Sorry.
We'll take that as a secondary. That's just where those things live to refer to so they can make the payment directly and see the invoices, past jobs, quotes, and proofs that they need to manage. It's an add-on, which is why I asked, because some people tie it into the shipping module. So they see the orders where it's at in production as your end customer and manage the invoices.
And
But I
is
don't.
that available in Canadian market space, the Canadian
It is.
marketplace?
It is. Yeah, we convert the numbers to Canadian dollars, and so the change has taken place, I think, as of last year for that. So maybe our team hasn't followed up on those things, but as you're looking at that, you're thinking about how the team is using the system and what came to mind. We talked earlier a little bit about who we brought to the table. Your consistent pushback of these things and until you're able to like really see it and feel it. What were as you looked at the team, who'd you bring to the table for a decision? Was it you by yourself in this case? Did you bring pre-press? Did you bring in a CSR or an invoice, maybe your finance person to look at this? Um,
No, I made that decision.
okay,
So
so
I
this
made
was
that decision.
a executive decision in this case.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't need people's input.
Hmm.
So I made the decision. I probably checked with my signage manager at that time,
Mm.
because it's completely different, and she's very technical knowledge on software and that. And because it wasn't connecting to Corebridge in any way at that point, then I look after more of the traditional market space of print and mail and all that.
Hmm.
So I looked at it. I think I may have demoed it to the two people I chose for champion to be the PlanProphet
Hmm.
champion. I would advise
Hmm.
that if you can have at least two people, if you're not the PlanProphet champion yourself, I would have not one but two PlanProphet champions, because 3 months after implementing PlanProphet, my main champion went on maternity leave without, a lot of notice ahead of time. So, I would have taken a huge step back if my second PlanProphet champion couldn't just step up and go.
It's a fair
So
point. Yeah. For
I have,
champions, using that terminology for the audience here is that the champion is like your maybe not a power user, but it's your version of a power user. They're the
yeah.
ones who organize and know how to use the systems. They work with our support team and our training team to answer questions that might come from your team to update this, change this report, update the automation, figure out these other challenges, and design specifically for those aspects. So this is important because we're talking about an executive decision with some consultation out to the team. Talk to me about how the implementation and the adoption process was, because this is being added to their plate. They're having to ask to be changing and doing something different. Oftentimes, this is one of the greatest pushbacks we hear is not only will my team use this, will they want to use this?
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like, there's a certain point where you tell them this is how it's going to be. Because if you leave it up to staff members, sometimes we all get busy and they get busy too. So, they make excuses to not do it. And that's one of the big, not just to PlanProphet, but I've seen that happen to any automation system I've tried to put in. So again, sidebar, like my pre-press manager who was supposed to set up my automation on my graphics never had time to set up the automation on the graphics. Well, if you make the time to set up the automation, then you will have more time through it. So you got to sort of push the issue a little bit. I was involved at like the 10,000 level. Like, I was looking at the reports. I was setting up staff, employees, the administration side. I was setting goals, but the actual hardcore operations of setting up emails, setting up reports, that's where the champions came in, your power users or whatever. But it's, I was more, so I divvied it up. I said, you guys look after this, I'm looking after this. And that's how I did it.
So yeah, they're working on the day-to-day usage, kind of the structuring of it as well. You're looking at the reporting, the dashboard, the visualization, the business intelligence. First question to that is, how has that since changed as far as like, hey, this is something that's now on your plate, figure it out, let's go, it's important, to today? Are they, would you consider them to be more advocates in the sense of users themselves, or has it still been something that has been a challenge to adopt and to use?
They couldn't live without it. They could not live without PlanProphet anymore. So it's 100% on their plate. They've adopted it. It's just the way we do things now. And again, any automation system, if it can handle 90% of the workload automatically, and there's always going to be 10% that there's no matter what you do, I can't automate some of the invoice processing, for example. Mm-hmm. And that's life. That's reality. This system, I hope people understand that they will run into some roadblocks on setting up PlanProphet and having it working through the workflow. There's still some customers that we have to send manual invoices to, just because there's a statement of mailing, there's an invoice, they need it sent off to 3 different people in 3 different actual organizations. It's very complicated. Or sometimes you'll run into customers that have a website that you have to load your invoice up into their invoice payment system. PlanProphet's not going to help with that. But if it can handle, 85 to 90% of the mundane stuff, you're so far ahead. And it does. You run into, every so often, you'll have a customer that has some firewalls and issues like that. And sometimes that's a challenge, because trying to convince your customer to whitelist your email server, that doesn't happen. They say, oh yeah, we'll look into it. And then their IT department says, why are we doing this? Who cares? It's not important. So it never gets done. So sometimes you will get emails blocked. I won't say it's 100% perfect. It does happen. But again,
Yeah, something's outside of control when it comes to a email domain management of things. And for those that are listening here, the difference between sending an email out of PlanProphet versus out of an inbox or outbox of Gmail, Outlook, or what have you, is that it can come from, it's basically telling, your Google or your Outlook email that, hey, this is coming from you, but it's coming from us and for therefore Salesforce Cloud, because that's what we're built on. Then as it sends that out, sometimes it looks different to the recipient. It doesn't it happens very not very frequently, but when it does, it's just a simple matter of them not even whitelisting the domain necessarily every time, but whitelisting that out of junk if it went to junk. And then we do see information if they opened it or not, if it's sent from the system, which is helpful. So as you're thinking about that yourself, Brent, and you're thinking about this from an owner's perspective, how has it changed the way you make decisions, see information, and kind of manage visibility or data? Because now you have data at your fingertips, you can report on it, you can see it. It's not always pretty, it's not always perfect, but give me an example or a few of ways you've kind of gone about this since you've been a user.
um, yeah, everything, all the data is in one place, and as I said it before, it's right in your face. Like it's right there, so when your top customers are not buying from you. You know when they are buying for you. Like everyone's looking for big green buttons on the side saying they've increased their sales on this customer. But if you want to, it helps you evaluate. Again, if you could implement it properly on the sales team, you can monitor all their activities. So, for example, I had one CSR who just loved to tell me how busy and tell everyone how busy she was. And she was so busy she couldn't do this, and she was so busy she couldn't do that. And, she just got all this workload, and she would tell the entire staff how busy she was. And then you look at PlanProphet, and she sent 3 emails that morning. So if you're that busy, what are you busy on? Because you're not busy doing your job. But she loved telling everyone she was so busy. Stuff like that. You can see what the employees are doing, and it helps you make those decisions. And again, it forced me to go to one MIS system, which overall is better for us as well.
It's interesting too, because the question comes into play about visibility is I can see what you're doing, I can see what you're not, which is helpful when tracking and with good visibility or good, a good employee will want that because they're getting their job done, they're moving things along well. It actually helps in the way that technology these days can help that track more efficiently. Even talking with my wife and I, as we use different technologies, is hey, now I have a record of the work I'm doing. It's there. Some people come and concern themselves with automations and AI and these things about workforce. Is it going to replace my job? Is it going to make it impossible for me to do what I'm doing? Is it going to be better than me? What we're seeing, at least from most of our users, is the workflows, the automations is tracking and taking away a lot of the repetitive actions that are happening from a person so that things can be moved on to higher priority. So instead of having to hire new headcount to manage growth, they can take their current staff, they can take some things off their plate and then help them to refocus on things that really make a difference in growth or profitability or production efficiencies, et cetera. Have you any stories of examples of that might be worth sharing?
Yeah, and again, if you use, it's only as good as how much you use it and how many functions you use. So, if you are responsible for being a sales manager role, you can see exactly how many calls your salespeople are doing a day, or not physical phone calls, but how many emails they're sending, what customers are reaching out to. You can pull reports. The reportability on it is fantastic. It's a safeguard for certain things. So to show accuracy, people, when you get a new customer, you have to put in an email because the email has to be put in to send the invoice to. So what happens if you put in the wrong email and they never get the invoice or an estimate or whatever? So now we've built a report that automatically happens every Monday of all the bounce back emails. So then we go, oh, this customer did not get their invoice, and we fix it at that point instead of waiting 60 days. Because, hey, we forgot to put an S on it, or on the email, or we said it's a CO instead of a C.com, right? So some of the safety things like that. But from a sales management role, you can really look at what your salespeople are doing. And the salespeople, if they adopt it, they would love it too. And again, that's one of my challenges is salespeople don't think they have time to do it. And if, again, my sales staff is typically on the older side, more of the aged community. But if you're getting some younger people in there, under 40 that are in your sales role position, they'll look at this data-driven process and fall in love with it, because it just opens up everything for them.
You speak about a good point there, which is, different user types create different benefits and challenges. So those that might be less interested or less used to change of technology, adoption of hyper complex things with a lot of buttons and fields and other things, because no one wants to make a mistake and everyone wants to do a good job, but also make it as easy as possible. So it creates an interesting dilemma of, hey, if you do it well, it actually saves you way more time, makes it easier for you. But if you don't do it well, then it promotes certain things as well on the other side of visibility on, hey, you're struggling here. Any examples on an ROI standpoint, whether it's time savings, the buckets as we talk about them for most of our customers is I save time. That time per hour would have been spent on here and here. There's new deals they've acquired because they've done this, or cash flow benefits. There's a couple examples of that. Anything come to mind for you that really stands out consistently, and then maybe anything that pops up, oh, every once in a while, this happens.
So, yeah, I'll talk about a couple different things. So, if we go back and talk about a little bit about the marketing campaigns that it does. So customers come to us because they need one item. So whether it's a sign or whether it's a flyer printed and mailed, we've created a program that all of a sudden it sends them an automatic email as soon as an estimate's created. Hey, welcome to the Allegra family. Thanks for the interest, blah, blah, blah. And then a month later, or I forget the exact timing, I think it could be 21 days later, they get another email and said, after the jobs, whatever they came to us was completed, and they go through that process, 21 days after that invoice has been closed off, then they get another email from us saying, hey, we noticed that you know us for flyer printing. Mm-hmm. Did you know that under our Image360 brand, we also do signage? And then, 21 days after that, they then go into promotional products. And then they talk a little bit more about mailing and then commercial print. And there's a series of probably about 5 or 6 different options there. So if you use it for all your marketing communications via the web or the internet, I canceled my loyalty loop, which was a very good program. It's very well liked by many people, but PlanProphet can do the same process as loyalty loop to almost the same effect. And now I don't have to pay for loyalty loop because I'm already paying for this. I don't need constant contact anymore because PlanProphet does it, and it's more intelligent. And again, it's only as good as you make it. So you can make it a lot more intelligent on your campaigns than a loyalty loop program or constant contact, which just gets email blasted to everyone. Like, why send an email blast to the same email blast to each person? We should be sending a direct communications, and the communications from PlanProphet typically look better than marketing pieces because it's coming from the CSR. Mm-hmm. So it's not info@AllegraPickering.com that sent you the email, which is automatic spam and you get thrown in the junk and you get unlisted. It came from Randy McDavid at AllegraPickering.com or Sophie Dykstra at Allegra Pickering, and it's signed off from Sophie. So because you can pull more data, better data, as long as the data is good, the response goes to the customers, and then all of a sudden you'll hear back from them because they think they're actually talking to a human.
Mm. It's interesting
Indirectly.
because in this case, it sounds like you're talking about being able to take an idea of mass market emails, but applying it to more of like if you're not tagging, but at least you know who needs to receive this information, and you're using the list email, which is basically create a list and send them to these people, but it's coming from Brent or it's coming from your CSR, not an info or marketing at, which means we don't have to worry about that unsubscribe button and the other functions that go with that. You do have that capability. You can send HTML and other formatted, emails out to wider net company users, but it sounds like you guys are using more of a promotional focused on your customers that make sense for that promotion and being able to enable that one-to-one communication email style versus the one-to-many scenario. Even though it's sending it out to many, it looks
Yep.
to each one it's sending to this one person at a time.
Yeah,
So
and
it's fantastic.
it's coming from different different senders as well. So,
Mhm.
like, why would Sophie be talking to a customer that she doesn't even know? So they've gone through the experience. But the one thing, again, uh, uh, constructive criticism feedback
Mhm.
back for you. I wish that PlanProphet would also be able to attack, so draw the data from all the marketing fields in the contacts of Printsmith because it's very
Mhm.
limited on that. So in our contact on Printsmith, we make it so that we mail the marketing insider. We just started the program, so we've gone through all our contacts in Printsmith, highlighted who we're going to send them. It's a magazine called the Marketing Insider to, and then we pull the data from that. But that data can't show up into
Kind of
PlanProphet
profit.
yet.
Mhm.
It can
Mhm.
pull a couple of the fields, but not all those fields, because it's pretty cool to also be able to send a digital version of that Marketing Insider to those recipients as well.
I want
Anyways,
to look into that because it's great feedback. And I'm wondering if it's a limitation at the API level for Printsmith, meaning that that object or those details are not available via the API, which is what we use to pull that data across. And if it is, and it's just not an object that we had in the past in PlanProphet to match, we created the custom objects recently for customers, for deals, for opportunities, et cetera, so that you could match things that haven't been there before. So Brent, that's one thing we can also take back to the team on our side is to say, hey, in the past that was this, it was not possible. Let's check that API and let's see if that makes sense, or we could maybe add to that. And that's that user-led feedback that really helps us a lot. So I appreciate that.
yeah.
We,
The other area was the proofing, where I saw a really good ROI is the automatic proofing system for artwork. It's it's incredible. Like you upload the file to it, the customer can approve it or send back changes or reject it, and it takes a while to get the customers on board on how to do it. There's some hesitancy there because they'll get the automatic email from PlanProphet about the artwork,
Mhm.
and then they'll type back an email to the CSR saying, "Yep, looks good. Go ahead. Can you click the little button on the list?" And technology is only as good as long as they use it. But to do the artwork, automatic follow ups and things like that, and you get it's 1, 3, 7, 10 days, and then they get an email saying, "Hey, what's going on? Why has this project delayed?" And the same thing happens when you send an estimate. So you send an estimate, the PlanProphet sends an automatic follow up, and I think it's set 3 days, and then 7 days, 14 days, and then on 21 days, it gets a email message sent from me saying, "Hey, you never went ahead with this project, blah blah blah. Hey, I just want to have a little bit better feedback. Would you mind letting us know, why we didn't get it as the owner
Mhm.
of the company?"
The
And
escalation with owner involvement, showing that
yeah,
we really care about this, and it wasn't just another job that didn't get done.
and then I'll get an email back from the customer, and I go, "I don't even know who this is," and they'll
Hmm.
say, hey, the project's just been put on hold. We're going to do it in spring, blah, blah, blah. Or, you get some honest feedback, good and bad, saying,
Yeah.
price was too high and it is what it is. Or, I moved ahead with someone else. And you get
Mhm.
that feedback that typically you wouldn't get. And sometimes you can save the sale at that point.
Mm. Give you that chance to go in front of the customer and communicate on what's happening.
Yeah.
That seems to be one of the bigger things that people really appreciate is and sometimes it can go too far for some customers. They can feel like, hey, turn this off or like pull back on the emails and like, hey, but at the same time, more things are getting done with that customer than they ever had been before. And maybe we
Yeah.
turn off and we pull back on one thing, they don't get the automated, marketing follow up, but they're getting the quote and proof every time. Um,
Yeah.
those
And
level of
we
adjustments are important. Hmm.
and we've set different levels for different clients too, so that we know. So, and again, you make mistakes when you set it up. All of a sudden, the first week we sent the same contacts like 4 emails within like 3 days. And it's like, whoa,
Mm.
something. We triggered them all at the same time or something, and it's like we had a couple customer complaints saying, "Why am I getting so many emails from Sophie?" And it's like, okay, let's back off.
Mm.
What did we do wrong, right? So if you do set an automatic thing that button to send out, it's going to send it out, and so you got to be
Yep.
sure that your data is good and your system's set up properly.
And what's interesting is after doing some spending a good amount of time and money researching this with them is how much is too much and what's the risk of too much. Oftentimes, the best way to go about this, and this is just from multiple users, franchise and independent alike, tell them you just onboarded a new system to help streamline their process, their experience, and if they have feedback, then you're more than welcome to take it in and what have you. Has been a great line because that shows progression as a business, that shows these different things, and people are people. They understand that things change, and you're more welcome usually than oh, whoops, sorry, I sent you too many emails. It's, hey, we just, we onboarded this great system or it does this and that. Um, we have about 5 minutes left. I want to offer, if anyone else has questions, in the group that they want to ask, please don't hesitate, whether you're from AFB, whether you're from PlanProphet, whether you're from one of the Allegras or Image360s or otherwise. Jump in, ask any questions as I wrap one more up with Brent for myself, which is you've been working with AFB on this. They've been partnering with you on using and maybe at the beginning, in the middle, and the end as ongoing. How's the experience been on the support when it comes down to AFB working with you and alongside you in the experience at PlanProphet?
Well, PlanProphet, the support from PlanProphet is fantastic. Your technical support people are great. They're responsive. There's no complaints. They're easy to work with. AFB is good. You can use them. You use them as much as you want to use them. So they fixed a lot of the things that I have challenged them on, saying, why isn't this an that I'm like I said before, I'm an Allegra dual brands, in Canada. Why can't I have this group of marketing stuff set to go, ready to go? And they're improving that. I also felt in the beginning, they didn't have anyone from marketing, I believe, even involved in PlanProphet. And if you look at it, marketing is, I would say, easily 30 to 50% of the benefits of PlanProphet, easily. So I was a little disappointed in that, but they fixed that too. Now it's part of the marketing wing, I believe. So, and they're making improvements, but you both have been great. PlanProphet, the technical support was great, supporting us in setup when we have challenges later on, how to even do quick things, working through that data backup problem. They were great. They got us up and running reasonably. We were able to export data from there, so we knew we could rebuild all the invoicing that we lost from our customers. So, they're very responsive that way.
Amazing. Oh, that's good to hear. Not every time can it be as smooth or as perfect as we would like it to be, and I think the with the AFB team outside of the direct client usage and user examples, Lisa and her team has been really helpful on understanding what the usage has been and how the people's feedback have been, and
Mhm.
even from the corporate standpoint on things that they like to do. So I think the deeper collaboration continues, Brent, and your feedback becomes important with that because you're in the middle of using it. We can only hear and see what you have to say. It's the same thing. We'd like to be in front of you and bug you until you literally tell us everything that you want to happen, and we make it perfect. But as we move that together, and as we kind of wrap this up here, Brent, if there's anything that if you could say one thing to other print shop owners and teams out there, just in reference in general. It doesn't have to be about PlanProphet or otherwise. What would you tell them when thinking about systems like this?
Um, you know, if you're not thinking of having an automation system, whether it's PlanProphet or a competitive product, which I don't know of any other competitive products that work well, then start thinking about it. It's a no-brainer. We gotta reduce our labors as much as possible, and invest in automation systems. It's just the way of life that's going on right now. And so whether it's PlanProphet or a competitive automation process, start the research, buy into one, and run with it. Um, I think I answered the question,
You
but
did.
that would be the key thing. As I say, I was a huge skeptic, a vocal skeptic that I thought there was zero use because my CSR is so great. Follow? Yeah, they follow up. They don't follow up. You know, it
When
takes
you
a
see the
lot of
number difference between before and after, and you're like, oh, wow, this is what follow up on everyone looks like, right?
yeah, and you just use it and you close more sales, right?
Mm,
And
mhm.
it's also easier. No offense, sometimes we have new prospects they happen to be time wasters. So like, why am I
Ah,
going to CSR physically phone call them, 5 times in over the course of 2 weeks trying to close the deal when they're not ever going to ever buy from you. But
chasing our
you know,
tail over and over again.
but from a customer support thing, you feel obligated that you have to. Well, now you put in
Mhm.
PlanProphet, and PlanProphet does it.
Yep.
I'm moving on to something else.